Hello and welcome to Sujith Talks. My name is Sujith Billa, a MARN agent. If you want to follow me on Facebook, please go to facebook.com, search for Sujith Talks or hashtag Sujith Talks. Like my page there, you get regular updates on Australian immigration. If not all, you'll get a lot of them.
This video is about the eligible relative stream in 491 visa. Before watching this video, please read my blog on 491 visa at sujithtalksblogspot.com. In the eligible relative stream, firstly, we should know who can be a sponsor. The sponsor or the eligible relative could be a parent, a child or stepchild, or a brother, sister, adoptive brother, adoptive sister, stepbrother or stepsister, stepsister or an aunt, uncle, adoptive uncle, step aunt or step uncle, or a nephew, niece, adoptive niece, step nephew or step niece, or a grandparent or a first cousin. And it should be noted that it could be the primary applicant's relative or the primary applicant's spouse or de facto partner's relative as well. So if you are the primary applicant, your spouse can have a relative and they can also sponsor you as a primary applicant. And the sponsor should be sponsoring all the primary applicants and secondary applicants. So primary applicant plus secondary applicant should be sponsored by the sponsor. Now, sponsor should make a declaration in a stat deck, and you can see that stat deck on the website of Home Affairs. You can actually download it and use that for 491 application. For those who are not familiar with 491 visa and what I'm talking about here, I would strongly recommend you to stop watching this video, go to Home Affairs website, read about 491 and then come back and watch it, because this video is firstly talking about who can sponsor, and also more importantly, secondly, the definition of usual residence, if at all it's there, because the sponsor for 491 visas in the eligible relative stream should be a person who has turned 18 and has Australian citizenship or permanent residence, or they should be eligible New Zealand citizen. So the sponsor should be either citizen or permanent resident or eligible New Zealand citizen. And on top of that, the sponsor should be usually resident in a designated regional area. So this designated regional area definitions keep changing from time to time, and currently everywhere in Australia except Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney are considered regional areas for 491 purposes. So if you look up this instrument or the legal document LIN 19/217, you will see a list, and that list applies for 491 purposes at the time of this video recording. So you should always check the date the video is posted, be it mine or somebody else's, because information quickly gets outdated in the immigration field. Now, the most important thing that I'm going to talk about in this video is the definition of usual residence, if at all it exists, because it doesn't exist in the policy or legislation accurately at this stage. Because what does usual residence mean? Sometimes you should go literal meaning, dictionary meaning of usual residence, which usually they are resident. So in considering whether the sponsor is usually resident in a designated regional area, the case officers will look at sponsors' actually physical residence, that is where they eat and sleep and have their usual abode, which is the place of residence. Officers might also look for evidence such as the person's physical presence in a designated regional area, which can be seen via documents such as rates notices, something that you get when you own a house, and rental agreements, leases, rates, notices, rental agreements, leases, and then utility bills, address on the electoral roll, tax returns, and the length of that residence. So it's not just limited to what documents are said, it could be more than that. For example, if you're renting a place, you could have a bond that's registered with government. So things like that will be looked at because they all talk about when you actually got the document, which means that you kind of showing the length of residence. But what is the length of residence is not prescribed here in the policy. The guidelines for case officers or the policy guidelines that case officers will look at before taking a decision, or the policy that registered agents like me will look at, or those who are interested can also go and look at this policy by subscribing to LegendCom, which is a publicly available resource by the Department of Home Affairs, but you have to pay for it. Now, the issue here is because there's no prescribed length of usual residence, it's advisable that you have reasonable residence in a designated regional area to be able to sponsor your relative. Now, it is to be noted that a sponsor who has been living in a designated regional area on a temporary visa but has only recently acquired permanent residence may also satisfy the requirement that they are usually resident in a designated area. So someone's who's been there in a regional area for a significant period of time on a temporary visa but just got a PR like a few months ago can still sponsor. Now, the moral of the story, or the moral science lesson I want to give via this video, is that do not try to tell your brother or sister or whoever is classified as an eligible relative, asking them to go to a regional area and stay because they could sponsor you. Because if you do that, which means that you're trying to exploit the system, or you're trying to ask a person to stay in a place that they would normally not stay. So they're not normally resident in that area, but just because you want them to sponsor you, you want them to go. And as a result of that, the sponsor might not be able to satisfy the definition of usually resident because they're not usually resident there, but they're just going for the sake of sponsoring purposes. So that might not work. Also, to be noted that 489 eligible relative stream, 489 which doesn't exist, eligible relative stream was not that popular, so we should wait and watch what happens in 491 eligible stream also. That's all about 491 eligible stream, the definition of a relative who can sponsor, and the definition of usually residents. In fact, we do not have a standard definition, but I did try to explain what the case officer could look at and what is that you shouldn't be doing. That brings an end to this video. Like I said in the beginning of the video, please read my blog on 491 visa at sujithtalks.blogspot.com.
Thank you for watching this video. My name is Sujith Billa, a MARN agent. If you haven't subscribed to my channel on YouTube, please do it. Sujith Talks on YouTube. Click on the bell icon to get notified. For those of you who are interested in immigration advice rather than the general information, please go to my website sujithtalks.com. Schedule a phone or video consultation based on your time zone. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for more. Until then, it's Namaste.